Tov and Rena from Colorado. Okay. Folks, today we conclude chapter 4. What makes us divine? Well, we've touched upon this. Is, of course, everything else in creation comes from the divine, but it's not inherently divine. It's not a revealed divinity. It is the power creator within creation, absolutely. God is vivifying, bringing into existence every single moment, everything within creation. The power of God is there, but it is the Word of God, which is external, that serves a purpose, rather than some that is internal, that is the purpose, an end in itself. And that is the divine soul, of course, that we've been speaking about, that it is a part of God, not a creation of God. What does it mean as a part of God? The name of God, Shem Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, that becomes a part in us. What does that mean? A name was put in us. No, as we've explained yesterday at great length, the way this name, what it represents in the divine level above. It represents above the 10 divine attributes, spheros as they're called by the Kabbalists, meaning illuminations of the divine, or by the Zohar they're called tikkunim, adornments, to garb yourself. In other words, how God, so to speak, expresses himself. And through this, it now becomes a part of me. It becomes a part of me, within me. So we explained the way it is above, and in a similar way it is within us. Of course, within God, this is infinitely beyond the way it is in us. Yet, we need to appreciate it, the way it is within us. And we'll see where we're going with this. Of course, the first thing is just the awareness of the fact of how we're connected to God and how divine we are and how we reflect that within us. So let's go through this. Yesterday we explained that the name of God is split into two. The first part is a Yud and a Hey, Yud K, and then Vav K, Vav and a Hey. And as we explained yesterday, the two parts of God's name, the whole name vivifies all of creation, is found within all of creation, but it does so in two different manners, not two different manners, but two different levels of creation. The hidden worlds and the revealed worlds. There's the hidden spiritual worlds above, and then there's this physical world down here. Let's separate between spiritual and physical worlds, even though that's not merely the separation, because even in the spiritual worlds, there's also the revealed as opposed to the hidden. But let's just make it simple. So the letters Yud and a Hey vivify specifically of God's name. It's all of God's name, but specifically those two letters, the hidden world. They give life and existence to the hidden world. And then the Vav Hey gives to the revealed world, to this world. We explained yesterday that the Yud and the Hey and God are the divine intelligence, Chachma and Bina. We translate wisdom and understanding, but means the seminal point, the beginning of, as would be in us, in cognition, and then the like the Hey takes the point of the Yud and expands upon it. The expansion, which Bina is the expansion of Chokhmah. So, and then we said, I'm sorry, but then in the latter two are letters vivify this physical world, that's the revealed world, and that was 6 emotions and Malchus. And that was the 10 spheros, as we explained. Now, how does that express itself in us? So it's going to be a little different in us the way it is in the divine. It is the 10. But it's not just the 10 powers of the soul, it's also the expression of those 10 powers. We have the hidden part within my soul and the revealed part within my soul. Basically, intelligence and emotions are the hidden parts within me. And the revealed parts are speech and action, which is the expression, speech being the expression of one's emotions, and intelligence too. And then action. So let's explain. Intelligence, we understand that that's hidden because that's within me. Don't need the existence of anybody else and for me to engage in intelligence. But even emotions, here we're calling it the hidden part of my soul. Why is it hidden? Because emotions here doesn't mean the expression of your emotion. In other words, if I say to someone, I love you, right? That's speech. That's expressing the emotion. I'm giving a class now later. Sorry. That is, so intelligence, we understand that is something that's hidden, that's within us. But even our emotions, even the reason why I have an emotion is because there's another person to have a feeling towards, whether it's a feeling of love, a feeling of fear, or God forbid, hate. It's because there's another. However, it's hidden because it's still within me. It's not expressive. It's not expressive. The garments of expression, speech and action, that is revealed. So with that, let's now go into the letters to get more clarity. So the Yud is Chokhmah. Chokhmah is, again, translated as wisdom, but no, it's the first level of cognition. It is the seminal point of an idea. It's the ingenuity. It's like the right brain. The right brain is, where the musicians and the artists and so on would have, artistic ingenuity and so on. That's the right brain where everything there, is a seminal point. It is like the Yud that could be expressed by merely a dot, meaning it is the kernel, the seed of an idea. And truth be said that, sometimes you're like, I have a flash. Eureka, I got it. Wow, what did you get? You got the point of something, and it's only a seedling that's not developed yet. And it's the beginning of everything, just like the Yud is the beginning of every letter. Chokhmah is the beginning of everything in our soul. But staying there in Chokhmah and not being developed, expanded upon, what happens? You're going to lose it. It's like, oh, Eureka, I got it. And then someone gives you a little nudge and says, Frank, what's going on? What's happening? And you start a conversation and you lost it. you didn't really lose it because you really never had it, because it was only a seminal point of Chachma. The whole tree is in the seed, but it's only a seed, and seed is easy to lose. What do we need next? It needs then to be the yud taken across the width, the breadth. Take the idea and fully elaborate upon it. Fully develop it. That's Bina. In Bina, and that's where Bina comes from binyan, to build. You're building on the seed. You're making it grow into a tree. Now, here's a bit of a distinction from the way we expressed yesterday, the way it is in the divine order. And I'll explain a little more later why the distinction. But then we have, as you expand upon it, it goes down. So here the going down is not further in Bina. Remember that these letters are only a metaphor. I shouldn't say just a metaphor. They're a vital force of creative power of God. They're serving us as a metaphor to understand the divinity in us. So, the extension of Bina is to go down into one's emotions. So the downward part of the Hey is actually emotions. And as I mentioned, the first two letters are about the hidden powers of our soul. So intelligence and emotions are hidden. Because the emotions here, we don't mean the expression of an emotion. It's the feeling without the verbalization, without the thought of it. It's the feeling that you have a feeling, and sometimes you can't express it in words, and you don't even have a thought in your mind exactly what it is. Do you have the feeling? Yes. It's more subconscious than conscious. That's what we're talking about. In that sense, it's hidden, even though it's the beginning of connecting to another, but it's not in reality connecting until there's expression of the emotion, which is coming on the latter two letters, right? So what do we have here is the extension of Bina going down into emotions, which tells us actually an important thing. Parenthetically, the Alter Rebbe doesn't say this here, but that the whole point of us learning together Tanya is not that we should become brainy people and become really intelligent and really know our stuff of Tanya, but no, it should extend from Bina and go down into our emotions. It should shape our emotions. So therefore the two come together over here, because in the human dimension, not only is it concealed within me, the emotion, but the point of the intelligence of the Chachma and Bina are to draw down into the emotions that we should love Tanya. Once we understand Tanya, that we've developed it in Bina, we've understood it, we should love it. We should, despise evil, because we understand the greatness of God and the goodness of God, and we should despise evil. So on and so forth, right? In other words, the whole point of the understanding is the development, bringing it down into the emotions. So actually, here I explained why it is that way in the human dimension. Even though sometimes in the Chassidus it will be brought that the Hey is completely the idea of Bina and the Vav is the emotions. So, because again, emotions are a tricky definition. Is it a hidden thing or not? Well, it's hidden in the fact that the emotion is hidden. It can even be hidden from you. But it's the beginning of revelation. It's the beginning of connecting outside of you, as opposed to intelligence isn't at all. So therefore, it can be brought in two different ways, pending what the context isn't what the important teaching is over here. So perhaps, and this is my idea because the Alter Rebbe doesn't say this, the fact that this is the emotions over here drawing down is because to bring out that idea that the whole point of the intelligence is in order that it should feed our emotions and affect us, the knowledge that we have. So then we go to the latter two, which is the revealed parts of our soul. And what's revealing? Garments. Garments. It's the clothes that make the man. It's the garments that express. So what are the two garments that we're speaking about here that are outward expression and are connected to what it means to serve God? So there's two things ultimately that bring us to the dimension of indeed serving God. And that is drawing down expression, which is speech. Speech is the speech of prayer, the speech of Torah study, as we're doing over here, using the voice, the individual. That is the expression of your emotions. In other words, I love God, so now I express that love by praying to God. I love His Torah. I express that by, expressing His words of Torah, and so on, right? That's the Vav, because Vav means to bring down, to draw down into expression. And then the last Hey is action. Is action. The Hey represents the practical worship. In other places here, not here in Tanya, but in other places, the letter Hey represents action in the sense that the three garments of expression are also in the letter Hey. You have thought and speech, and then the little leg over here is action. Here, in this instance, the Hey represents entirely the concept of action, but the Hey generally is the idea of action. And if you divide the letter into the final garment, because sometimes, remember, the Vav would be emotions, and then the Hey would be the thought, speech, and the action that's in other places, not the way it is over here expressed. Because remember, this is all a metaphor. It's a metaphor. So in other places, that Hey, because why would the Hey be disconnected? Because what you think is the same letters of speech that are connected one to the other, but you could talk the talk, but that doesn't mean you walk the walk, because just because we say something doesn't mean we act that way. There's a disconnect between speech and action. So the Hey represents that disconnect between our speech and action. That's as the Alter Rebbe doesn't say this over here. This is in other places of Chassidus. I'm just bringing that idea over here to give us a fuller understanding of the teachings over here. And that's what makes us divine. Again, God breathes His very name into us, Shem Havaya, meaning that just as it is above, it is in a similar way, but infinitely removed in the sense that it is unique in us. I mean, not unique, but incomparable the way it is above, even though there's similar ideas, of course. And those powers of the soul, that gives us the capability of using our intellect to know the divine, to feel connection to the divine, to God, and to speak His words of Torah and prayer, and to act in His mitzvahs of being charitable, of putting on tefillin, lighting Shabbos candles, Shabbos, and all the other mitzvahs that are revealing the connection to God. So that's the divinity of our soul. Now, this is going to take us to the next step of, now that we understand that, how we're connected. The question is, how do we become disconnected? And what does that do? And ultimately, how do we reconnect through tshuva? Because this is all about tshuva. But we're going to get there. Anna is asking a very good question. Where is Keser and Das? Keser is the crown, the will of God. So we mentioned that will is that dot, that pointy thorn up, pointing to beyond. So it's hinted over there. And Das is, so to speak, the bridge between the first two letters and the last. Or actually, in this instance, in us, it's not. Das is the bridge, so it's kind of hinted over here. It's hinted over here, but it's not specifically referred to. That's a good question. I have to do a little more research to understand. I mean, because what you're taking is Chachma and Bina, and then you are bridging it to the emotions. So, I don't know. I have to do more research. Thank you, Anna. Good question. Okay, any other questions? Oh, it's not from Amsterdam. Welcome. Ella from Arizona. Good morning. Anita, good morning. Louise from Sydney, Australia. Must be really late. Thank you for joining. Pamela from Virginia, Boker Tov. And Denise is asking, how does this relate to the different names of the divine that we used for the different attributes of the divine? How does this relate? Well, this is the Tetragrammaton. This is the basic name of the power of God that animates, creates, and is invested in us, not just as creating us, but a part of us. All the other names are particular attributes. You know what? The name of God, it depends what the context is. So in this context, Shem Elokim is about the hiddenness of God, the contracting the light on God. And here Shem Havai is about the power of God that reveals the divinity in us by being vested within us. You know, it's not Shem Elokim that is in our soul, or Shem Kel, or another name. It is this name. The other names are about how God appears either in his kindness, in his judgment, and so on and so forth. So it's more about there, it's in the context of creation. Here we're not speaking so much in the context of creation, we're talking about how the name of God is a part of us. And therefore knowing that how we have in our soul the name of God. What does that mean? Where's that leading us to? So we'll see that what it means when we do something wrong and what we do to the name of God within us. And what do we do to God himself? That's where we're going with this. That's the context. Shoshana Bina, thank you for joining. And Zalman, thank you for joining. Joatha from Brazil. And I think everybody else I've said hello to. Maybe not. Dina from Brooklyn. Eric from Detroit. Okay, is the audio working well with the video? I think it should be. If not, let me know. All right, folks, sharing is caring. Please share this with others. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, the Tanya. Have a wonderful day.